by many of our elected officials today. We're going to hear from the governor in a moment. We're going to hear from Senator Klobuchar and Congresswoman McCollum. But I got to tell you, the stakes are very high. We've got to do everything we can in the next 5 days, roll up our sleeves, go door to door, person to person, neighbor to neighbor, and talk about our values as DFLers if we're going to win. The stakes couldn't be higher this election. The races couldn't be closer here in Minnesota, and we need your help. Now let me introduce our first speaker, someone that really needs no introduction, someone who's been holding down the fort here at the Capitol, someone who's been representing our party well, our governor, Governor Mark Dayton.
I had some dental surgery yesterday, so I'm a little wobbly here. So I'm going to stand. I'll just stand here, if that's all right. Try to avoid that picture there. These two good-looking people with brown hair, you know, stands out, and then there's this guy in between. My press secretary, Katie Ducey, said, "Well, at least it's a good-looking bus." So, but you know, it's going to carry a lot of great people all over the state of Minnesota for the next few days. I'll be on the bus on Sunday, and Monday I'll be in Red Wing tomorrow on the way down to the deer hunting opener in Winona. So we'll have Senator Klobuchar and Mayor Rybak and all the DFL party leaders and Paul Thissen and Tom Bakk and labor friends. So, you know, we're going to have a great Congresswoman McCollum. We're going to have a great bus of people, and it's going to be a lot of excitement because everybody knows how critical this election is. Everybody knows what's on the line here. There's no Tweedledum Tweedledee. This is a fundamental difference in the direction for our country and for our state, and we got to win it. We just have to win it. So you got to get everybody charged up and everybody motivated and everybody to turn out to vote. And if we do, then we're going to have a fantastic party. Ken, you've done a great job. And thank you for everything, and you're going to throw a great party on next Tuesday night, I understand, huh? Okay. So anyway, off we go, and have fun. Who's driving? Not me. Yeah, not me. Thank you, Governor.
All right, let's hear it for the governor, folks. We need to make sure that we give Governor Dayton a majority that he can work with to actually move this state forward. As you know, we're calling this the Road to Progress Tour because we know if we don't win on November 6th and get DFL majorities here in St. Paul, there'll be no progress in this state. Despite Governor Dayton's attempts to move this state forward, we know the Republicans have been roadblocks every step of the way. So we know if we want to get this state moving in the right direction, we need to give Governor Dayton those majorities. Are you with me, DFLers? All right, thank you so much, Governor. Next is our wonderful Congresswoman from the 4th Congressional District, someone who's been working hard to turn out the vote in this district, not taking anything for granted, turning over every stone to find DFLers and win back these legislative majorities, beat back these constitutional amendments, and of course get herself re-elected. Congresswoman Betty McCollum.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, welcome to St. Paul and welcome to the east side where the sun is starting to rise. So it's good to have you all here. Well, I'm so excited you're going out and you're spreading the word about how we need to be moving this country forward, and it is about progress. Let me just tell you what I'm hearing at the doors. I've been out door knocking. I'm going to go back out again, and I see some of my colleagues here from the 4th who are out door knocking with me. And I'm hearing from seniors that they're tired of the big lies. They're tired of the big lies about how Republicans are going to somehow or another find private insurance out there that are going to sell to seniors. Because in 1965, when Lyndon Johnson signed into law the guarantee for Medicare, seniors knew that they could retire and live their lives in dignity and not be a burden to their children, to be able to send their children to college. This is about the middle class in America. They've had it. They're voting Democratic. And I'm so pleased that they have seen through all the lies and everything, you know. You hear, especially in the 8th District, we're getting the ads in the Twin Cities, aren't we, folks? And, you know, Rick Nolan will protect the Medicare guarantee for our seniors, make sure that the donut hole closes, sure that we are moving forward. And then we've got, you know, the 6th district. My district abuts the 6th district, and I might be representing a congresswoman or maybe a retired congresswoman after Tuesday. And in the 6th district, people are really looking at Graves very carefully because they want a person that's going to be representing them, speaking for their families in Washington, and I could sure use a brother like that. And then I know you folks are going to be out in the 2nd. And we've got a chance to pick some things up out there too. I mean, first we have to get Tim Walz reelected. I mean, you know, and he's working really good on that. But Mike Obermuller is really, this is a race that people didn't think was going to be that tight, and it's tight. So I want to thank all of people who have been working on that. And then let me just close. I've got some great brothers. I've got a good big brother in Colin Peterson. He's just been fabulous. He's trying to get that farm bill. We need the farm bill passed. And then let me just tell you that Keith and I really are proud to be the Minnesota Twins. So thank you for being out here. Thank you for working so hard. And let's get out and let's ask everybody to vote, and then to vote no twice. But if you're in St. Paul, vote yes once for the St. Paul school referendum. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Congresswoman McCollum, folks. I know it's a chilly day here, but we got a few more speakers to fire folks up, get people ready for this final push. Let me talk about, before I introduce our next speaker, let me talk about the stakes of the election once again. Because in 5 days, we have the ability to move this state forward. We have the ability to move this country forward by re-electing President Obama, re-electing Senator Klobuchar, making sure we win these majorities back and beating back these constitutional amendments. But imagine, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but imagine if we wake up on November 7th having elected President Romney, having elected Republicans in control of the U.S. Congress, Republicans in control of the state legislature, and having enshrined discrimination into our state constitution. I know you agree with me. We don't want to wake up to that reality on November 7th. And so what we need to do these next 5 days is go out there, roll up our sleeves, and do everything we can to make sure that that is prevented. The next speaker that I'm proud to introduce has been representing us very well in the city of Minneapolis. He's been traveling throughout the country, throughout the state, making sure we get the message out about our great president, President Obama. It's my honor to introduce Minneapolis Mayor R.T. Rybak.
Good to see you all here. Are you ready to work? Yeah. All right, that's good. We're in the middle of a horrible crisis on the East Coast, and as a dad who's got a kid in New York and one in Washington, I'm happy they're safe. But I'm more happy that we have a president who in the middle of this crisis is leading us through with the kind of strength and calm and compassion that we've known him to do. It's a really powerful thing. And I know what it's like to be the elected official on the phone when the president calls, because when the tornado hit North Minneapolis, I get a call from the president. What do I do to help? He was calm, he was clear, he was compassionate, and we see that when crisis hits us here at home, but that's what he's been doing for 4 years. This guy walked into one of the worst economic crises in the history of America, and he brought this country together, and he did tough things, but the number one thing he said is in tough times we come together. Everybody deserves equal pay for equal work. The number one thing this president did is said women deserve equal pay for equal work. And then he got to work, and he passed the Recovery Act that put people to work on bridges and roads, on projects throughout this, police and firefighters, teachers, getting people to work, clean energy, and really getting this country going. 31 straight months of private sector job growth. He put his political career on the line to deliver health care to 30 million Americans. And that will not ever be something that I will ever regret. I will call that Obamacare every day of the year. That is a great thing. He got us out of Iraq. He's getting us out of Afghanistan. He got bin Laden. And more important than anything, that same cool, clear, compassionate leadership has been there every step of the way. That's exactly what we've seen in Mark Dayton. That's exactly what we've seen with Democrats at the legislature, because they know that in a crisis, Americans come together. Minnesota is great because in tough times, people have come together. Barns didn't go up on their own, we raised them together. People on Main Street needed their neighbor. In tough times, we come together. When it snows, we shovel each other's walks. Those are the values that Democrats have. Those are the values that we need to lead this state in. And in the middle of a crisis, the number one thing these past 4 years the Republicans have said is that their number one job was to stop President Obama. Don't let that win. Show that we understand that we come together in tough times. And when we come back in January, have a governor like Mark Dayton, who has done such great work, have a Senate led by Tom Bakk, whose values have always been about Minnesota and its Main Street core values, have a person like Paul Thissen leading the House, and have a Constitution that stands up for everyone. We should never ever allow people who couldn't get their work done at the legislature to put half-baked ideas on the ballot. We do not have a Constitution that puts a post-it note in and says we'll come back and figure that out later. They didn't do the work, send it back to the legislature. You guys go off and do the great work. We're going to win this election, and more important, we're going to say that the core values that we have as Democrats, where we come together, are going to be Minnesota values. Have a good election. We can't wait to go out and celebrate with you guys election night. And please make sure we vote now.
Thank you, Mayor Rybak. In 2010, the Republicans running for the legislature campaigned on two things. One, creating jobs. Two was lowering taxes. They accomplished neither one of them. As Mayor Rybak said, they failed on both of those. Not only did they not create jobs, they didn't introduce one single jobs bill. They didn't work with the governor to pass our bonding bill. Instead, they focused on divisive, social, constitutional amendments. That was their legacy of the last 2 years. And in terms of lowering taxes in this state, they repealed the market value homestead credit. That means that most homeowners, most business owners in this state are seeing their taxes increase. That's the legacy these Republicans and the majorities here left to the people of Minnesota. We have two legislative leaders who are working hard to turn that around. But let me tell you something. 700 votes. 700 votes. That's what we lost the state house by in 2010. 2,200 votes is what we lost the state senate by. Less than 3,000 votes flipped both chambers, and because of that we saw inaction, gridlock, government shutdown, and nasty constitutional amendments. We don't want to go back to that. Here's what Dave Thompson said their first priority is. On January 1st, if they're still in control, they're going to introduce a right-to-work constitutional amendment. They said they're going to introduce a personhood amendment defining a fetus as a person. They said they're going to introduce a supermajority amendment, making sure that our legislators' hands are tied well into the future. This is the agenda the Republicans want to put forward. We have to make sure it's beat back. And the next two gentlemen I'm going to introduce are doing just that. I want to introduce the next majority leader of the state senate, our wonderful minority leader right now, Tom Bakk.
Thank you, Ken, and thank all of you for coming out. You know, in 2010, Minnesotans took our state off the track. And I don't think they did it intentionally. And I think there's a great deal of buyer's remorse by a lot of the people that voted for a Republican legislature. For some reason, a whole lot of Minnesotans, when they checked Governor Dayton's box, made a decision to go out and vote for a Republican legislature. And I think what Minnesotans expected was that Governor Dayton was going to have to compromise, and the no-tax people were going to have to compromise, and there was going to be some middle ground. But little did those Minnesotans know that compromise was going to become a dirty word. And that's not just me. Remember, the chair of the Republican Party said compromise is a dirty word, publicly. That's not Minnesotans. And I think those Minnesotans that voted for those Republicans are having a great deal of buyer's remorse. And you try to run on this agenda. State government shutdown, the longest in the nation's history. Historic borrowing from our schools in order to balance the budget, so that our local school districts had to go and borrow money so they can pay their school teachers. Criminalization of stem cell research. And the University of Minnesota in the Mail said that that would have eliminated 250,000 jobs in this state. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if some of that research led to changing the health of the world, and it happened here in Minnesota, and they wanted to make it a crime? You can go down the list on their agenda, funding the University of Minnesota and Minskew at 1998 and 1999 levels. Total disinvestment in our higher educational system, in our workforce development, and undermining our future economic growth. So I think those Minnesotans that made that decision in 2010 are having a great deal of buyer's remorse. And this pendulum is going to swing back in this election, and Democrats are going to gain control of the state Senate. Many of you have helped here, and I can look out and see an awful lot of labor people. Yes. Please, you've been incredible help, but in these last 5 days, pour it on. Because if these Republicans hang on to this legislature, I'm telling you, Ken Martin's right. 2 years from now, we're going to be spending $30, $40 million to defeat right to work. And that's a lot of money out of the pockets of hard-working Minnesotans in order to fund a campaign to defeat right to work. So I know how hard it is sometimes to get the membership out, but this is critically important, and I know you're working hard to do that. So please keep it up. Thanks, you've been just great, and we're going to get her back, and thanks for all your help.
Thank you, Tom Bakk. And I just wanted to acknowledge Sher Knudsen and Steve Hunter from Labor, so many other labor leaders here today. We could not do it without you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for what you're going to do the next 5 days to ensure that we win back these majorities and win races up and down the ballot. My next speaker is Representative Paul Thissen. He's been doing a great job leading the caucus. He's been doing a great job with the campaign. I'm convinced he's going to be the next Speaker of the House. It's my honor to introduce Paul Thissen.
Thank you, Democrats. Thank you all for being here. I do want to acknowledge we have a bunch of House members here. Alice Hausman, I see, is here. Sheldon Johnson, Michael Paymar, Tim Mahoney, and John Lesh. I hope I didn't miss any, but thank you all for coming out today, too, and for everything you're doing. So, you know, we're facing big challenges in this state, and that's what we've been hearing all across the state. You know, families are facing higher costs of living. Classrooms are the 47th biggest in the country in this state, squeezing our kids and their chance at a great future. All these things are going on. Our state budget still is not in balance. We still haven't gotten the fundamental work done that we're sent down here to the Capitol to accomplish. But what we're hearing more than anything at the doors is that people are frustrated and they're tired with the gridlock, with the shutdowns, with the inability to get stuff done for average Minnesota families. That's what they see. And they're not only sick and tired of it, and I get that, but it's really dangerous for us because we have these huge challenges that we're facing. And I think, you know, if you listen to the rhetoric that's going on the Republican side of the aisle as they go door to door, as they do these debates, they're talking about how wonderfully bipartisan they've been. They're talking about how they work across the aisle to get stuff done for average Minnesota families. They know that the record that they've actually set up on, which is the longest state shutdown in state history, balancing the budget on the backs of middle-class families by raising property taxes instead of closing corporate tax loopholes. You know, they made a choice not to do that. They made an affirmative choice to say, I'm going to raise taxes on middle-class Minnesota families instead of closing loopholes on corporations that have their money sitting overseas. That was a choice they made, and don't let anybody make any mistake about that. The fact of the matter is these Republicans have taken us in exactly the wrong direction that this state needs to go, and we need to be moving forward once again. This state, the challenges are too big for us not to be doing that. So if you listen to your representative in the next 5 days as they come to your door and they're a Republican incumbent and they say, I want to make sure that we are working on a bipartisan basis to get stuff done for middle-class Minnesota families, say, tell me what your record actually is. Tell me what you've done to do that in the 2 years you've actually been in office when you've had a chance. And they won't have an answer with you because they don't have an answer to that question. They have not done the right thing for the state of Minnesota. They have not done the right thing for middle-class families. And that's the message that our candidates are taking out all across the state. I am really excited for the next 5 days. I am really excited for Election Day. Not because Democrats, I believe, are going to win and take back majorities in the State House and the State Senate and win our Senate race and win a number of congressional races and re-elect President Barack Obama. Because winning for the Democrats is good, and I like that personally, but the fact of the matter is, if we do take back these majorities come November 6th, it's good for Minnesota and for Minnesota middle-class families. It will set us on the right course. But we have a lot of work to do. The fact of the matter is this is going to be a very competitive, very close election. And we need everybody to get out there, talk to their friends, talk to their neighbors, and talk about the facts and the reality of what's gone on for the last 2 years, what the record has been, and then talk about what it could be. If we have a chance to work with Governor Mark Dayton to move this state forward, to get past the gridlock, to take on some of the big challenges that we're facing, that is really what Minnesota all along has been about. That's what our values are about. Thinking about the future, thinking about the next generation. We haven't seen that for 2 years. We need that right now in Minnesota. That's what Democrats will deliver when we take back the majorities. And I'm really excited about that opportunity. Thank you all so much for coming out. We're really going to need you over the next couple days. Please get out there, work, 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 because if we do that, we absolutely are going to win. Thank you very much.
Don't you think those two would be good leaders in the legislature? Well, I'm going to introduce our last speaker here, but I got to tell you, every single day, there's not one day that goes by that I don't get a call from either Amy or Justin over at their campaign asking, what can we do? What can we do to help Democrats win throughout the state? What can we do to make sure we beat back these constitutional amendments? What can I do to help the governor? What can I do to help Paul? What can I do to help Tom? Amy has been there every step of the way. But one thing we know about Amy, and I've said this before, is she's a workhorse. She's not going to take anything for granted. She's going to go out and earn every single vote. And she's been doing that, crisscrossing the state, helping our Democrats, helping the party. It's my honor to introduce our senior senator, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
All right, well, you guys have heard of super PACs, right? We have a super bus. That's what I have to say. And it is so great to see all of you out here. I was thinking the last time I was in a bus like this with a face on it was the president's face in Colorado when I was campaigning around Colorado with then Senator Salazar. What I remember, now keep this in mind, Ken, is that they forgot about the tabs. They got expired. And we got stopped by the Colorado State Troopers, true story, in the middle of a mountain pass. And the bus pulled over. There was tons of media behind us. And we got out to check out the problem with the trooper with his big hat. And I still remember this young press guy going to all the media behind him. This is off the record. Well, it was on CNN in an hour, all right? So I'm sure we'll make sure it's all legal. But it is wonderful to be here. I have been, as Ken described, crisscrossing the state with our candidates. I was in Bemidji. We did 16 stops in 2 days. Duluth, Bemidji, Laverne. I was up in Morris, somehow we ended up in Tenney, which I hope we don't do that because we got there, it's population 4, and realized the town had been abolished on a 2-to-1 vote. So we have it taken care of, all right? But in any case, there's just so much spirit, especially with the students out there, optimism, people working hard, getting out those lawn signs, and I actually think all this stuff we're seeing on TV all the time, all the negative ads, all the things that aren't true, has really gotten people motivated to say, it's our state, right? It's not the state of these outside interests. It's our state. This is Minnesota. This is what we stand for. And one of the things I've noticed in our candidates, our Democratic candidates, is that they are pragmatic problem solvers. They want to get things done, whether they're in the suburbs of Minnetonka, whether they're in Apple Valley, whether they're down in Morris. They want to get things done for the state. That is how they look at things. They don't look at things through the lens of rigid ideologies. And that is what's been stopping progress in Washington. That's what's stopping progress in the legislature. And that's what Minnesotans have begun to realize, that they want people that are willing to stand next to people they may not agree with on everything for the betterment of the state, for the betterment of this country. Not people that have signed some pledge to never compromise, right? Because the pledge our candidates have signed is the pledge to represent the people of Minnesota. And that's where we need to move forward. The other thing I love about our candidates, they understand that to move this economy forward, we have to believe in America. We have to believe in making stuff in America, inventing things, exporting to the world, that is how we're going to keep going. And that's what's really kept Minnesota with our head above water through some really tough economic times. Whether it's Duluth Pack making purses that are hot items in Asia now, Red Wing shoes, believe it or not, exporting all over the country, Faribault Wool's up and running. You look across the state, and we have business businesses that are making things in America, and that is how we're going to move ahead as a country. So I'm really excited about this bus tour, hitting some more stops across the state. So let's get going. Let's win this election. Thank you, everyone.
Let's hear it for Amy Klobuchar! I'm going to leave you with one thing. My mentor in politics, who I got my start with, was Senator Paul Wellstone. Some of you have heard this before, but Paul said that politics is not about big money. It's not about power games. Politics is about the improvement of people's lives. That's what we're doing today. Because while these elections, and we have great candidates, it's not about the candidates. It's about the values we share, that they share. We need to get them elected so they can bring those values forward to Washington and to St. Paul. But we know ultimately what this is about is improving people's lives. So when we leave here today and we travel around the state, and you go out and you door knock and you're on the phones for the next 5 days, let's remind ourselves what this truly is about. Making a difference in our communities, our cities, our state and country. If we do that, we will win the hearts and minds of voters. We will win on November 6th, and the DFL will return sanity to St. Paul and Washington. Thank you so much for being here.